What represents the natural reference system? All right, that's the question for today. Good to see you out there. Welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas, and I do videos on educational matters. Very soon we'll be getting into many of those different subjects, but to lay the groundwork, we're starting with coverage of the Tree of Life. And I've been doing 144 plus videos on different aspects of the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life is a valuable tool that you can use in order to evaluate things in your life, especially spiritually and psychologically. It's basically a map of our consciousness. And it's a great tool in and of itself, but it also serves as an outstanding mnemonic device and filing system that you can use to collate large amounts of information. So we're learning the Tree of Life to give us a foundation so that when we study all of these other different topics and learn a great deal of information, we kind of have a place to put it where we can find it and recall it and utilize it and put it into context, into priorities. So we're going to do the Tree of Life as the foundation. Then once we got that down, then we can go into studying all these other academic subjects, which are basically academic subjects, but a sacred or a quantum version of them. So all the things that you learned in high school, but you'll probably have to unlearn a lot of the stuff you learned in high school in order to learn this stuff. So the Tree of Life will help you. This is the diagram of the Tree of Life. This is really what I was saying, a map of our consciousness. And as you can see, this diagram goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, if not before. And you can see that there are 10 different circles or spheres on the diagram that are numbered: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is a thing here called the abyss, which is a dotted circle. Then there is a 0 above the tree. That makes a total of 12 different components. Those 12 components are basically different faculties of consciousness or abilities of consciousness. These are capacities or potentialities of consciousness. These are things that we can tap into them, and they will give us different cognitive skills, different abilities of consciousness. So, for example, we look at the 10th sphere. The 10th sphere is where we start from. We start from the bottom, and we kind of evolve in this direction, and we get as far as we can. Sometimes we don't get any further than 10 in our whole life, but most of us end up developing the 9th. And many of us develop the 8th. And then from there on, it becomes thinner and thinner as we move up the tree. Most people don't get much further than the 8th. They have maybe some fleeting experiences from the 7th and 6th. And then the rest of it is kind of all cloudy. But if we can really learn the tree and make it systematic, we can gradually evolve up the tree, and we can potentially open up all of these in our lifetime. It's a long, arduous process. But when we start at the 10th sphere, the skill or ability or capability or potentiality that we have is our sense of instinct. Okay, now this isn't not so much a potentiality because it's really everybody has it. We're kind of born with this. This is our instinct. This is our sense of survival. This is our fight or flight response. This is the law of the jungle, kill or be killed. This is our wild animal consciousness. This is our life force. Our life force keeps us alive regardless of our conscious input, keeps our heart beating, keeps us breathing, keeps our organs working. all these various things that we need in order to survive, the millions and millions of different chemical reactions and electrical reactions that are going on are orchestrated by our life force without any of our conscious intent. Okay, now if the 10th sphere is our wild animal consciousness, the 9th sphere is more like our domesticated animal. So this we open up as we move into the home, the domestic environment. We are being raised by our caregivers, parents, or whoever is raising us. They are, clothing us and sheltering us and feeding us, and we are devoted to them as they are devoted to us. They nurture us. We are devoted to them, and we are in a heightened state of receptivity. We're new creatures on this planet. And so, the first 5 to 7 years of our life, things are amazing to us. The most mundane things attract our attention, and we stare at them and we wonder at them. And when we have people in the house that we are devoted to, we particularly stare at them, and eventually we try to imitate what they do. We imitate their talking, or we imitate their walking. And when we start doing that, we inevitably fail because it's a lot harder than it appears to be. But we practice over and over again until we get it. We keep falling down, but we keep getting back up again, and eventually we learn how to walk. It takes a long time. This is the learning cycle and the process that goes on here at the 9th sphere. So you have your heightened receptivity, you have imitation, and you have practice or repetition. Then you have memorization. Once you have the memorization, it goes back down into your body, and it becomes old hat. You can do it unconsciously. Okay, now the 9th sphere's main weakness is that it is not discerning, meaning that it doesn't tell the difference between a healthy action and an abusive action to imitate. Okay, now if the 9th sphere is our domestic sphere, the 8th sphere is more like our public sphere. This is what we get when we go out into the public. The faculties or the abilities of consciousness related to this are our belief systems and our rational faculty. This is the most basic aspect of our rational faculty, the superficial appearances aspect, and the rational really dividing into different categories, putting things into different categories. And we get many of these beliefs and opinions from the powers that be, the establishment, and the institutions. They're all located here at the 8th sphere, as are all the resources and really all of the kind of status involved in our society. The powers that be set the 8th sphere up as if it is kind of like the goal of your life. It's the goal of your life to get into the 8th sphere, become an expert in whatever field, and that if you do that, you've made it. You're one of them. You're one of the elite. You're one of the leaders. You have access to all these resources, and you have this great reputation. The problem with the 8th sphere is that the 8th sphere is a trickster. And so the 8th sphere is not always going to tell you the truth. This is where we get the conventional wisdom and the expert opinion, and everybody knows that. And these kind of pronouncements, which don't have anything to do with reality. The fact that everybody knows it doesn't mean that it's true. And that's a logical fallacy. So what you really are doing by believing that is you're inverting your 8th sphere. You're saying, oh, because everybody believes it, that means it's true. And that is not logically accurate. There are many other ways that you can twist or invert your eighth sphere, your logical thinking, to fit into the eighth sphere. This is the classic emperor wears no clothes type of situation. They're telling you that the emperor has a beautiful suit of clothes. Right in front of your face, you're seeing that he's not wearing anything. But you end up, because this is where all the prestige and all of the resources are located, and there's this false consensus that everybody knows that. Everybody sees this emperor's suit of clothes. You end up rejecting your own experience and affirming the powers that be's opinion about it. And you say, oh yeah, he's got a beautiful suit of clothes. And then you think, wow, what's wrong with my vision? There's something wrong with me. I really, there has to be something wrong with me. But in reality, it's something wrong with the eighth sphere. And so you end up twisting your own logic to fit into the eighth sphere, and one lie, one rationalization, circular reasoning, or another logical fallacy ends up leading to another, to another, to another, and eventually you can get stuck in the eighth sphere. The approach that makes sense is that you just give it lip service. You have to get in here to get some resources, but you don't have to stay. You don't have to really trumpet this. You can just give it lip service. Oh yeah, those are nice. Those are nice clothes he has. Now can I leave? And you can leave, and you can go over to the seventh sphere. Otherwise, you're going to get trapped here. And again, they present it as the be-all, end-all. This is the goal of your life. But if you look at the tree, you can see that the eighth sphere is just the third of the faculties that you have. And you have 9 more faculties to open up. So this is not the be-all, end-all. This is just a minor step on your way. So, just kind of give it lip service, but in your own mind, know what you believe and what you've experienced. And so in the eighth sphere, if the eighth sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So the imaginary world is what you imagine that the eighth sphere could be. You see the problems with the eighth sphere and you imagine something better. So at the seventh sphere, you're using your imagination. You also have a creative spark, and you have your pleasure principle, which are your abilities to put things together into new and pleasing arrangements. You have your intuition, or your discernment, which allows you to ask questions of yourself deep inside, go deep inside yourself and get answers. You ask, what can I do to make this better? And you will be able to get answers from your heart. And that is something that is subject to verification, because you may not translate these answers correctly. The answers themselves will be correct, but your translation may not be. And so you have to verify these. You also have inspiration, or you are following other people who have come before you, and you're able to stand on their shoulders. You're able to benefit from what they've done, and they've motivated you to make your own stand here. Eventually, what you have is you can come up with a creative product, creative offering that is something that would improve upon the eighth sphere. Whether this is a work of art or an invention, you have something that you can offer for the eighth sphere. But even more broadly, you come up with a higher calling for your life, where the eighth sphere wants you to be a cog in the machine. They want you to be a category. That you want to be a farmer, or you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a cop. Here at the seventh sphere, you want to be the highest version of yourself. You're being yourself. You're using all of your gifts and skills, and and utilizing the circumstances of your life to put them all together into a life that is designed to benefit the world, the universe, as well as you possibly can. Okay, so that's really what your higher calling is, and again, that's inspirational, and it provides you with the impetus to move up the tree, because you have to develop all of your other faculties in order to accomplish this. This higher calling is going to take everything that you have, and you've got to, it's going to have to untap all your potential. So you start here at the sixth sphere. If the whole tree were a map, right here at the sixth sphere, it would say, you are here. This is where we are. This is our free will. And our free will boils down to our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions. Unfortunately, most of our attention is directed down into the 8, 9, and 10, because this is our comfort zone. This is what we're used to. This is what we're accustomed to and comfortable with. But we have our free will, which also entails making decisions. So we can decide not to pay attention to these areas anymore, to ignore this, and to turn around and to turn our attention on the upper part of the tree into our higher faculties that we're beginning to start to develop. This is a scary proposition, because now instead of being in our comfort zone, we're looking into the unknown mostly, because we haven't really tapped these yet. But if we can point it at the fifth sphere, the next one in line, this is our sense of justice. This is our sense of fairness, or our sense of right and wrong. And it can be envisioned like a mirror here that is a reflection. This is the law of karma, cause and effect. So that's a mirror. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. What comes around goes around. There's a reflection here. And what's reflected is violence, waste, and violation. This is how karma, calibrates. And so if you put something violent in, if you act violently, you get violence in return. If you act wastefully, you get wastefulness in return. And so you can, when you do get these bad returns, you can not complain about them and say that you're unlucky victim, but you can say, hey, that's happening because I created it. And you can learn to eventually clean up your actions and not create it. So you can transform karma. Karma starts as being your punisher, and eventually it becomes your teacher. How can I clean up these actions? And then eventually it becomes your protector, because you do clean up your actions, and now you create, and then you don't get any karma in return, because what you do is free of violence, waste, and violation. So then the result will also be, and you will be protected. So you develop a kind of a spiritual immunity that way. Okay, now same thing with the fourth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that natural law in the form of a cosmology, ancient holy book, or theory of everything, both ancient and modern. And there are, every tradition has at least one of these, and most of us have studied at least one of these. But the syncretic or synthetic approach of the fourth sphere is generally to study as many as you possibly can, and then to weave them together to what makes sense for you. So you study as many of these cosmologies as you can, get yourself up to a high level, and do your homework, and then you go inside and you ask for guidance. And that guidance will help you to integrate and to synthesize all of those different cosmologies. Again, the intuition has to be verified, because you might mistranslate. And again, you have to do the work. So you will not benefit from this communication unless your knowledge is already up to a high level. This will take you an additional a distance, but you have to take the first several steps before you're even ready to do this type of intuition or insight. Okay, then if we target our attention on the abyss here, the abyss is about our psychic powers, and our psychic powers stem from omens, and the omens are really magnetic charges that are highly anomalous or against the rules of probability, and they stick out in our mind. So the first part of this is our psychic receptivity, being able to notice that there is an omen. And then the second part is psychic heat, which is being able to act upon the omen. The omen itself will imply an action. And so if we notice the omen, we should be able to notice what the action required is. And if we take that action, again, it requires courage because we're going out into the unknown. But if we can take that action, we'll activate our psychic powers. Okay, 3, 2, and 1 are at the top of the tree, and they are our divine faculties within. 3 is omnipotence, all-powerful. This is really our ability of fulfilling our higher calling, of the lifelong pursuit of, opening up all of our faculties so that we have everything in play to be able to fulfill whatever it was that we, were inspired to follow here with our higher calling. We tap into this through sound synchronization, especially things like mantra. Okay, then the second sphere is more about a visual thing. This is omniscience, all-knowing or wisdom, the ability to solve problems. And we solve problems by being able to see the answer. We see wisdom within our deepest center. And we are able to see this by calming the mind to the point where our mind, the waves of our mind are calm and the sea of our mind becomes transparent. We can see through all the way to the center. The only way to do this is through deep, deep meditation and being able to shut off our mind. Unlike at the A sphere, where we solve problems through thinking, it always creates unforeseen consequences. Here, we just go right to the solution, which is the image here that we see. So we have to be able to go through deep meditation. We can also use an oracle if we can't do that, which is a substitute, like a tarot deck or an I Ching or something like that. But then again, we have to be able to translate correctly. So we have to verify. Okay, now the first sphere is that highest center, our highest, our deepest center, our higher self inside of us. And here at the first sphere, not only are we able to see that image, but we're able to be that image. We're merging with the higher self inside of us. And when we do that, we unify everything, because what is at our deepest center is also at the deepest center of everything else. So when we find ourselves at the deepest center, at our deepest center, we find ourselves everywhere, because everywhere is the deepest center of everything. And so the one is really the all, everything. Okay, now if the one is the all, then the zero is nothingness. Okay, one is everything, zero is nothing, or emptiness, or mystery. Okay, these are the things that have to do with the zero sphere. The zero sphere is not part of this universe. The first sphere is the whole universe, and the zero is nothing. Now, nothingness is not in the universe, but it is part of the creator. The creator has an existence outside of the universe that we don't know anything about, and that is what the zero sphere is. Okay, so now that's a basic parameters of the 12 aspects of the tree. Now, to get to the 144 minor aspects, what you do is you take the whole tree and you shrink it down and you superimpose it on each one of the 12. So you get 12 by 12. You divide this into 12. You divide this into 12. You divide this into 12 for a total of 144 different minor faculties or fractal faculties, what I refer to as stages of life, consciousness, spirituality, and history. And these different stages are not chronological stages, but they're dramatic stages. So they're different kind of dramas that you go through as you move through life. And that's the 144 fractal faculties. I've compiled those into a list that I would be happy to share with you for free if you'd like to click the link in the description. Now we're going to look at one of those 144 fractal faculties, and this one today is number 130, what represents the natural reference system. And this fractal number 130 is located in the first sphere. Okay, so this is about everything. It has to do with geometry and unification, and thereby geometry. And it refers to the second fractal within the first sphere, although it may change to the fourth fractal when I reevaluate this. But right now we got the second fractal, which has to do with wisdom, has to do with omniscience, being able to solve problems. Number 130, affine geometry, AFFINE. Stage number 130 is about the division of unity into a reciprocal duality in time and space, center and periphery, points and planes, zero and infinity, parallel and perpendicular, affine and metric geometry, among others. Affine geometry has 12 degrees of freedom. Affine geometry reflects the introduction of the duality of zero and infinity. It creates parallel and perpendicular relationships. Duals. The universe starts at 1, which can be separated into 1 over phi, phi, the Greek letter, and 1 over phi to the second power, which add to 1. The first deduction from unity is the concept of free will. Magnetic 2D, or phi to the second power. And simultaneously, the second deduction is love. Electric 1D and phi to the first power. They are of the same character, phi, but we see them as different because of our reference point in the time-space region. The 2D magnetic free will is made out of time, but since we cannot see time, we have to project it into equivalent space, which is a second power relation. So we see it as a 2D phenomenon, while the 1D electric love is made of space and it moves through time. Multiplicatively, 1 is the boundary, and the duals multiply to 1 when we divide into integers between 1 and infinity on one hand, and unit fractions between 1 and 0 on the other hand. 0 is the closest you can get, and infinity is the farthest you can get, with 1 on the border, the progression of the natural reference system, or the speed of light, or the unit of space or time. That is the border. Consider a unit space boundary to be a sphere. The center of the sphere is at an infinite speed in time, at a point at infinity. and then the periphery is at an infinite space speed, the vanishing point. Infinite speed in space, or infinite speed in space at a point at infinity, the vanishing point. Unity resolves the dualities, meaning they still multiply or add to one. Unity resolves the natural reference system. It's the resolution of both the etheric and astral planes, or the affine and metric geometries. They are both the same, but one is in our region and the other is not, and has to be projected. The astral body is the projection of the etheric body upon the physical. Metric geometry is represented by the astral body, which is a projection of the etheric body into the time-space region. In the same way, that magnetism / free will, 2D, is projected into the time-space region as electricity, 1D, or love. In the geometrical cascade, affine geometry comes from projective geometry and goes to metric geometry, which then goes to Euclidean geometry. Okay, that is the second fractal of the first sphere, affine geometry, number 130 on the list of the 144 fractal faculties, which again, click the link in the description and I'll send that out to you for free. It'll help you as you go through other videos in this series to be able to kind of keep track of all of them. But it will be subject to a little bit of editing here in the next few weeks. Minor. Most of it will still be the same. Okay, well, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. We'll have plenty more to say about all this, and hopefully once we learn about the reciprocal system and we learn about some synergetic geometry, some of this will make sense. And hopefully it will make even more sense to me, too. Because, you know, this is all a work in progress. Hopefully it will become a kind of a crowdsource type thing so that people with more expertise than me in certain subjects can chime in and help out. Meanwhile, please hit the like button. You can share the video with others. You can subscribe to the channel. You can make constructive comments in the comment section. Again, you click the link in the description to get the free guide. And you can also find my Cash App or Venmo links in there if you'd like to donate. I'll be presenting another video on the 144 fractal faculties tomorrow, so stay tuned. And then otherwise, you have a great day.